Hi, and welcome to Manga for Comic Fans. Now, I know on the schedule it says Manga for Comic Sans. I don't want to disappoint you. This is not a panel for the Microsoft font Comic Sans. I'm very sorry. You know what? I'm sorry if people here. Are there any Comic Sans enthusiasts here? Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I try to make it up for you. All of the numbers are in the Comic Sans font. I try to make it up to you. I'm so sorry. So, how's everyone doing here? Is everyone enjoying TowerCon? That's so enthusiastic. Who here is enjoying TowerCon? That's all right. All right. So, like I said, welcome to Manga for Comic Fans. A little bit of information about me now that I have you trapped here. My name is Christopher Caruso, but most people here know me by my nickname Topher. For those of you who don't know me or have never met me before, I am the former secretary of the Otaku Anime Society. I was active in the club from 2012 to 2014. I like long walks on the beach and strolling with that special someone. So a little bit information about what this panel is and what you're going to come to expect. The manga and comic industry. First off, who here has never heard of manga or comic before in their lives? If anyone raises their hands, get out now. The two industries are so similar to each other, but they have so many distinct differences that they are considered their own different forms of media. So we here for the next hour that I have you stuck here, we are going to be taking a look at the two formats, seeing the times that they have collided, crossed over. And I hope that you guys pay attention during the presentation because at the end, we are going to be having prizes. We're going to have a little bit of a trivia. That's why the numbers are there. And maybe we guys can win some cool prizes. A little background information about my expertise in this field. I have been an avid manga reader pretty much ever since I could pick up a book. I used to be that one kid at high school who would come to the library, check out like 5 or 6 manga volumes in one go on like a Tuesday, then come back on a Friday, all of them done, and being like, next. Manga, in terms of comics, I have been an avid comic collector for about, I'm going to say about 3 years now, going on 3 years. I do like DC and Marvel. Between the two, I think I do prefer DC, whatever. I mean, but big things are going on in the Marvel universe. Secret Wars going on and Deadpool movies coming up. So let me learn a little bit about you guys. Just raise your hand. Who here considers themselves more manga fans than comic fans? Raise your hand. Okay, well, that's good because there's going to be a primary focus on manga than comics, but who here considers themselves more of a comic aficionado than a manga? All right, good, okay. I consider myself kind of equal. So let's talk a little bit, before we talk about the different times that the two have, you know what? Yep, if anyone's seen Death Battle, we all know how this ends. But just for anyone here who doesn't know about the field, about the two manga and comics, here's just a little bit of a lowdown before we talk about the different times that they've crossed over and collided. All right, so you're thinking to yourself, what is a comic book? What is this? I have this magazine-like thing in my hands. What? So a little bit of background information. A comic book is usually a story that is told through the use of sequential art and dialogue balloons. Like a typical book, it's read from left to right. And usually, this isn't always the case, but comics tend to take place in an expanded universe. It usually doesn't tell one solid story. So like you can have a Batman comic or you can have a Green Lantern comic, and they could have completely different stories, but they'll take place in the same world, which means that the story can have multiple writers, multiple artists. Sometimes that causes continuity errors because one artist or one writer can't cooperate with another one. It happens, but it's all good fun. Usually comics are published bi-monthly or just monthly, so every 2 weeks to about a month. Usually it takes about 24 pages of content in each book, but with advertisements, it takes about 32 pages. They spread throughout the story, throughout the book, so you're constantly barraged with different ads. And one thing is that comic books technically take place in color, mostly. There are some black and white comics, yes, but mostly it's all in color. So, looked like someone wanted to come in, but is walking away. We are. So, what is a manga now that we know what a comic is? Just like a comic book, a manga is also a form of storytelling told through the sequential art and dialogue. Unlike comic books, which are usually sold in thin magazine like format, comics are usually, or I'm sorry, manga is usually sold in volumes, in chunks. So, like with a comic book, you might get one chapter at a time, but with a manga, you might get maybe 5 or 6 chapters in one thick book. This isn't always a case. Sometimes we do have magazines like the Shonen Jump, which no longer is in physical print right now. Rest in peace. That would have, one chapter at a time, but multiple manga series. But primarily, you'll get them in volumes. One thing that's really great and convenient about the manga industry is that most of the stories take place in their own contained universes. So you don't typically have like Goku or Monkey D. Luffy crossing over each other. Like, for example, Death Note, like Light Yagami and Monkey D. Luffy, they're both published by Shonen Jump, but you'll never see them cross over in the same universe. So this helps prevent continuity errors, and it helps tell a more fluid story. Also, manga, unlike comics, which are typically in color, are in black and white. This is usually done to reduce cost, but to compensate for the lack of color, a lot of mangaka, which are the people who create manga, they usually try to make their artwork more detailed. They try to put more depth. They'll put more shading in hair or in clothes. So you get more detailed work, but no color. And each volume is about 200 pages each. And one thing that's really great is that they don't put their advertisements until the end of the book. So you're not in the middle of reading Yu-Gi-Oh! And suddenly you get an advertisement for the next Shonen Jump, and it's like, ah. No, it's all saved towards the end, which I think is really great. And one of the defining factors about manga is that unlike comics and normal Western books, which are read from left to right, a lot of manga is read from right to left. And this is something that really typically alienates people when they read manga because they're like, oh, I don't want to read it backwards. That's confusing. Shut up. Be cultured. Be smart. So a lot of things that manga publishers do a lot of times is flip the artwork, which we're going to see many instances of in this presentation. So now that we are well versed in what a comic and a manga is, let's start with DC Comics and their foray into the manga industry. A little bit of background about DC Comics. Oh, hi. I'm not totally putting the attention on you. Hi. So DC Comics was established in the early 30s, 1934. It was originally created under the title National Allied Publications, and it didn't become DC Comics until the late 30s because of the popular DC comic at the time, Detective Comics. Now, I don't know if any of you know Detective Comics, but that is the series where some superhero name debuted. I don't know if he did anything or went on to do anything great. I don't know. But a lot of the great superheroes, like the definition of superhero, came from DC Comics, and they typically came around the late 30s, early 40s. In 1938, we saw Superman in Action Comics #1. In 1939, we saw Batman in Detective Comics. Then this is great and fantastic, but where does manga fit in all of this? Well, keep in mind, in the late 30s and early 40s, what famous historical event was going on in United States history? Can anyone tell me? Are there any history majors going once, going twice? Somebody raise their hand. Ooh, Ian, thank you. Godzilla. That was 1954. You fail at history and you fail at cinema. Yes, what was going on in the late 30s? World War II. Very good. All right, we have somebody. Okay, we have college students here, and one person can tell me World War II is in the late 30s. We have someone whose father was in World War II in the audience. All right, putting the attention on you, Mom. So, naturally, who were we at war with among other countries? Japan. And naturally, we weren't going to be seeing a lot of business between the United States and Japan during World War II because, we were kind of having a feud. We dropped a bomb on them. It was super awkward. And, yeah, it was really awkward. Our bad, really, our bad. So we wouldn't see them doing business with the manga or with the Eastern market for another couple of decades. And the earliest type of comic manga collaboration was the Batman. Now, let me paint the picture for you. The year is 1966. This is the year that the famous live-action Adam West Batman show came out with Burt Ward, Biff, Pop, Zow, Holy Rusted Metal Bat. The Japanese, they loved it. They loved Batman. They had a little foray in there called Batmania. And the DC Comics wanted to jump in on this. They wanted to jump in on the Batman craze. So they commissioned one artist, one writer. His name was Jiro Kuwata. And he was commissioned to write Japan's own Batman manga series or comic series, depending on which culture you're from. And in Japan, it was known as simply Batman. It wasn't the Bat manga, but that is what we've called it today. It ran for 53 chapters, 53 issues, and it went from 1966 to 1967. Now, this was meanwhile, on the East Coast, this was during the Silver Age of comics, which were generally geared towards goofy, silly sci-fi fantasy. This was when, we were about to go to the moon. This was during the Cold War. So instead of like gangs and cops and robbers like the Eastern comics had for Batman, the Western comics were more focused on science fiction. They were focused more on mad scientists and mutants. So it definitely had a little bit of a lighthearted, goofier tone, very akin to the 66 Batman show, but that was just the time, So let's look a little bit about the Jiro Kuwata Bat manga. Now, the one thing that I really love about this particular manga is that this is a manga that is a product of the time. You look at Bruce Wayne, you look at Dick Grayson, they look like they walked right off the set of Astro Boy. And no, I'm serious. Like, this is the style that, manga had at the time. We'd have Astro Boy coming out in a couple of years. No, actually, I'm sorry. Astro Boy had already been out for like 10 years. So that was generally the style that people drew, and it gave it its own distinct identity. You have a question, Ian? Yeah, we also had Speed Racer. We had Astro Boy, but this was generally when anime and manga, this was during a very crucial time when they were actually starting to come out of the woodwork. They wouldn't reach the United States for a while, but it was there. It was prominent. And it was just it was a really fantastic series because it really held true to the time period that it grew up in. But you would think, oh my God, this is the very first Batman manga. I can't wait to see Batman and Robin fight, Asian versions of the Joker, of Two-Face, of Penguin. Yeah, none of them are here. Instead, for some reason, they decided not to use any of the main series Batman villains. Why, I don't know. But don't worry, they came up with a couple of all-star villains for this series. For example, they had the Human Ball. Basically, a man created a rubber suit, and he could bounce around like a super ball to commit his crimes off the walls. Because you know what? I don't know about you guys, but this is what Batman needed. He needed a villain with the same superpowers as Tigger. Catch me next time, Batman. We also had Carmack the Gorilla, a masked gorilla who had super intelligence, who hated all mankind and wanted to see it wiped off the face of the earth. And he wore a mask to hide the fact he was a gorilla? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of easy for me to... I mean, like, did he have a gorilla family? Yeah, he did look cool. Yes, Sam?
Technically, he was kind of the original version of Gorilla.
That is true. We actually had a couple of smart gorilla villains in the DC universe in the East. We had Gorilla Grodd, and we also had... Oh, God, what's his name? No, but I mean, the main one was Gorilla Grodd. And then we had Go-Go the Magician. And I love this guy because he's very similar to an Eastern Batman villain called the Weather Wizard. And what he could do is that he had a magic wand that could create storms, rain, snow, anything to commit his crimes, create whole mass destruction. And this is a really cool concept. But his name is Go-Go the Magician. You can't take a guy seriously with a name like that. All right, stop in the name of the law, Go-Go. and look what he's rocking. He was dressed for 1975 before 1975 was even a thing. I love it. And we have the mutant. And before you get excited, no, this isn't one of the X-Men. Damn it. So basically, he was a former human, decided to go under experimentation, try and benefit mankind, goes insane, decides to wipe out humanity. He's actually a really cool villain, except for the fact that he looks like he walked out of the creature from Black Lagoon. But aside from that, he's pretty cool. But my favorite villain of all, oh my God. Every time I read this series, I just love the fact that they passed up the Joker. They passed up the Penguin for the greatest villain of all, Lord Deathman. I'm just going to say this name again. Yeah, I'm going to say this again. They passed up the Joker for Lord Deathman. This is the greatest. Oh, this is the greatest villain I have ever seen. He has no powers. He has no special abilities. His main gimmick, he has the power to slow his heart rate to appear dead. He plays dead. He's Fido. So, yeah, I'll get you next time, Batman. And look at his costume. He's like Skeletor, but lamer. Oh my God. I mean, and the worst part about it is he was Batman's arch enemy in this series. Skeletor was his main villain. Yes? Oh my God. Yeah, because we got Sheepman, we have Alec Man, Deathman. Lord Deathman. Now, joking aside, it's corny, it's campy, it's stupid, but it's a good kind of stupid. You can find it now. They just released this for the very first time in the United States. I'm going to talk a little bit more about it later, but for decades, this manga was lost. We could not read it in its full format, but recently DC Comics just released it, and it's from right to left, not left to right. So it's fantastic. I would definitely recommend picking it up. You can find it at Barnes & Noble. DC Comics wouldn't foray into the manga industry for another several decades until about the year 2000, when they decided to try again, and that is Batman, Child of Dreams. Now, if any of you guys seen Batman Gotham Knight, they took a lot of their artwork and inspiration directly from this series. A little background information about Batman, Child of Dreams. It's kind of a standalone story where a series of drugs are circulated around Gotham City, and it causes people who take them to become whoever they want to be. If they wanted to be a supervillain like the Joker or be like Catwoman, they could do that with this drug. But the side effect is that it causes them to instantly burn up and die. Now, Batman finds out that there are ties to this drug in Japan, so he decides to go over to the East to track down who is responsible for these drugs. And throughout the series, he does have a love interest. Her name is Yuka, and she is a reporter who is obsessed with trying to get the big scoop, the big interview with Batman. But Batman's like, no, I am the Knight. And she's constantly getting kidnapped, whether she's in Gotham or whether she's in Japan. So let's get this straight. We have Tigger, we have Skeletor, and now we have April O'Neil thrown into the mix. Thank you, Japan, because we needed April O'Neil in our series. The one thing about this series that kind of irks me, though, is that they tried to Americanize it because people aren't willing to read right to left. So when they brought it over to the United States, they flipped the artwork over, which normally wouldn't be a big issue. But for like supervillains like Two-Face, his scar is on the wrong face and nobody comments on it. And also, they took a lot of the Japanese sound effects out. They replaced them with regular sound effects, and they added dialogue. So they actually ended up changing bits of the story because they thought that scenes with no dialogue at all was too boring. We need to be Batman, dark, extreme, always talking. So they added dialogue. It's not a perfect adaptation, but it's actually a really want to talk about, like, I like it because it kind of blurs the lines between fandom and the world of the comics. People cosplay, they want to be Joker, they want to be Two-Face all the time. Well, it really shows the dark reality of what happens when you get that wish, when you get that dream. It's available at Barnes & Noble. It's available at any comic book store. I recommend picking it up. Now, the next one that DC did was Batman Death Mask. Now, hold on a second. I know what you're thinking, because yes, I can read minds. You're showing us nothing but Batman mangas. What about the rest of the DC universe? Well, y'all, I tried. I looked up Justice League manga, nothing. I looked up Superman manga, nothing. I looked up Wonder Woman manga. It brought up some very not work-safe photos, but but from my research, the only American comic book character that they brought in was Batman. Maybe it's because Batman is the most popular of their characters. I don't know. But the next series that they brought up was 8 years later, and it's called Batman Death Mask. And in my personal opinion, this is probably the best Batman manga out of all the ones that I've listed to you guys so far. The general premise of it is that half of the series, hi, come on in. Oh, thank you. So the general premise of this series is that a serial killer shows up in Gotham City, and his killing methods are very similar to a Japanese serial killer that Batman was familiar with when he was training in Japan as Bruce Wayne. Because before he became Batman, he traveled all around the world trying to master every single martial arts style that he could. So half of the story is actually told through flashback during his time as a young man in Japan training the martial arts. And it's really great because we get to see a side of Batman that we don't normally see. Bruce Wayne. We see him struggle. We see him fight. We see him fail, and we see him get stronger. And we see the transition from that scared young boy to the Bat. Now, with a title like Death Mask, there's a big theme on duality. At what point does Batman stop becoming the mask? And at what point does Bruce Wayne start becoming the alter ego? And there's this whole idea of, different identities, different names, different pseudonyms, different faces. And it's just a really good psychological, there's perfect amounts of psychology, there's perfect amounts of action, and is that when it was printed right to left. None of the artwork is flipped. They kept the Japanese sound effects in. It's a pretty much one-to-one translation. It's very faithful to its original run, and it's really good. I would recommend it. You can find it, not so much, this one is actually a little harder to find. I couldn't find it at Barnes & Noble. I had to get it online. But I found it for cheap. I can find it for like maybe $3 to $5. If you can, definitely pick up this manga because it is really good. Now, this wasn't the only foray that DC had into the manga industry. There wasn't just dropping off characters in Japan and hoping things turned out well. They decided that they wanted to try and release manga as well as comics of their own, bringing in CMX, comics. Subtle, DC. So basically what this was is that this was an imprint, or basically a smaller company that they published under a different name that produced different manga translations. So whenever they brought it to Japan to the United States, they would be the ones that would distribute it and translate it. Some of the series that they translate, some of the notable ones include Crayon Shin-chan, one of my favorites. I love Crayon Shin-chan. Tenjo Tenge, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. We have My Darling, Venus Capriccio, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, among others. Now, the thing about CMX is that DC Comics got a lot of flack for this because they would censor artwork. So, like if a woman had breasts shown, take them out completely or hide them or censor them. If there was blood or violence, they would hide that. They would cover it up. They would change swearing. They would end up doing things that would end up changing the plot altogether. Essentially, CMX was the 4Kids entertainment of the manga industry. Yet you all know what I'm talking about. I'm still bitter about their dub of Sonic. I am still bitter about their dub of Sonic X. But anyway, a lot of people... gotta go fast. A lot of people were specifically complaining about Tenjo Tenge because that was a very mature series, and they censored so much that it pretty much changed the story altogether. So on July 1st, 2010, only 6 years after they started this branch, they shut down for good. And the one thing that's really sad about this is that a lot of the comics or a lot of the manga series that they were translating at the time, they just ended up stopping. They didn't bother to conclude them or let them go to the end of their run. When they shut down, they just stopped translating everything. So there were tons of series that were started translation but never got a proper completion. So a lot of people who were actually into those series never got to see a conclusion unless it was online legally, because we don't look at manga illegally on the internet here. No? You know who you are. So this is pretty much DC's foray into the manga industry. Let's talk about Marvel. Who here is more of a Marvel fan than DC? Raise your hand. Okay, a bunch of you. Avengers coming out soon, May 2nd. Looking forward to it. Yay. All right, a little bit of background information about Marvel Comics. It was established in 1939 as Timely Publications, around the same time as DC Comics did. Again, World War II, really awkward, didn't do a lot of business with Japan. And they ended up changing their name in 1961 to Marvel Comics. One of the first comics that they released under the Marvel name was the Fantastic Four, written by some writer named, God, what was his name? Stan Lee, was it? I don't know. Stan Lee, I don't know if he did anything fantastic after that or amazing. No, seriously, Stan Lee is considered like one of the Walt Disney of comic industries. He created the Fantastic Four. He created Spider-Man, the Incredible Hulk. He was one of the driving forces of the Avengers. And sorry, Deadpool, you were not created by Stan Lee. You are Rob Liefeld creation. Out of my sight, Deadpool. No, I'm kidding. I love you. I love you, man. Yep. So some of the series that Marvel is known for are the Fantastic Four, X-Men, Captain America, Spider-Man, Deadpool, Hulk, the Avengers, Thor, on and on and on and on. Yeah, question. That is so vague that it's not. Yeah, Stan Lee worked on this one manga with a guy, and he did a thing. I'm not. That didn't come up in my research, but I mean, if you know the series, I mean, feel free to talk about it. Okay, so the first instance that they had crossing over with the manga industry was a series known as Spider-Man the Manga. Now, this came out in 1970, and it went for about a year. I couldn't find the exact number of chapters, but I do know that it went for about 13 story arcs. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, a story arc is a collection of chapters or stories that are all collected into one overall story arc, hence the name. So it maybe 3 to 4 chapters, depending on the series. And this series was set and based in Japan, which I really like because it tried to give it its own unique blend. And the Spider-Man in this universe is not Peter Parker. It is, in fact, a Japanese teenager by the name of Yukamori. His origins are very similar to Peter Parker's. He was a nerd. He got bit by a spider. He decided to use his powers for good. He also has dead relatives. And one thing I really like about this series is that there's a lot more focus on the human side. Now, Peter Parker, what made him so popular was that he was a high school student who had to struggle being a superhero while everyone was, considering him negative in the media. But this was like on a whole nother level. Like this man had to deal with things like losing his house, having his girlfriend die because no superhero ever loses their girlfriend. But it's a great series. It's kind of hokey because of the time period it grew up in. This was during the Silver Age of comics. So if you ever seen the 60s, has anyone seen the 60s Spider-Man TV show? The color one, the cartoon, Spider-Man, Spider-Man. It's kind of like that. Imagine that series with a little bit more humanistic feeling to it. Now, this series for about 20 years went unnoticed in the United States, and in the 90s they decided to bring it over. But one thing that they did was instead of releasing it in a typical book form, they released it as a comic book, like the format that a normal Eastern comic would be released in. So it was on flimsy magazine paper, and all the artwork was switched left to right, and certain dialogue was changed around. But the one thing that irks me is that they never completed it. They only did about 9 of the 13 story arcs. And they actually ended the series midway through a story arc. So we actually never got a conclusion to one of Yukamori's stories. But it's a really fun series. You can find it online. Whether you find it illegally, I don't know. I'm not saying anything. Whatever. If you find it, but it's a really good series. And Marvel would do other series like the Incredible Hulk. Yes?
Just a quick thing. There was actually a live-action Spider-Man series in Japan.
I'm getting to that, my friend. Don't worry. Don't worry. I'm talking about. Oh, am I talking about that? But oh yeah, it's fun. But what was I going to say? No, thanks, Sam. You lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, no, that's fine. But they did other series like Hulk the manga, and they did an X-Men manga. But I don't have enough time to talk about those series. I can't talk about every single time that they have crossed over. So we're going to jump ahead to 2004. Now this, oh yeah, I can, hold on. So Japan was going through like this jaundice phase. I'm guessing because of the big yellow eyes. This you cannot get more Japanese than this. Oh my God, this is like kawaii. Like I'm getting diabetes from how sweet this looks. So this was several decades later, and this was the next jump into Spider-Man's Japanese roots, not counting the TV show, which I'm getting to. This was called Spider-Man J. In this universe, there's a Spider-Man in every corner of the planet, and the Spider-Man who represents Japan is Spider-Man J. Now, like in Spider-Man the manga, it's not Peter Parker. It is rather a man named Shu Amano. Actually, I really shouldn't say man because this is actually the youngest Spider-Man that I have seen in any multiverse. He's maybe about 14 or 15. He's a young one. He's like in late middle school, early high school, and it ran for about 2 volumes. Now, the thing about this series is that they don't tell you anything about Shu Amano's origin stories. They don't tell you how he got bit. They don't tell you how he got his powers. Just they throw you right in and boom, he's Spider-Man. Now, he kind of has a little bit of a sidekick of sorts, and his name is Detective Makoto. He is kind of like Jim Gordon to Spider-Man's Batman. He's the one that kind of on what's going on in town and like say he needs to get up like a building or something, give him clearance or access. He knows that he is Spider-Man and he keeps it secret from his family and friends. And he also has the support of his Aunt May, who, whoa, a lot younger in this series. Japan has been very kind to Aunt May. She's a little bit of a ditz, a little bit of an airhead, completely oblivious. Like Amano-san could walk around in his Spider-Man outfit, and she'll be like, "Oh, that's a nice costume. You look a lot like that Spider-Man fellow." Yeah. Mm-hmm. But in this universe, Peter Parker's Mr. Amano-san's parents are still alive, studying in the United States, very neglectful, and he has his friends to back him up. Instead of Mary Jane, he has Jane Marie. I don't know why that decision was, but when they brought this over to the United States, they Americanized it. They changed Shu Amano's name to Peter Parker. They changed Aunt May, M-E-I, to M-A-Y, and they flipped the work from right to left. I'm sorry, left to right instead of right to left. Now, the one thing that's funny about this is that you're going to notice J on his chest, and sometimes Marvel got a little lazy with their flipping of the artwork. So there are so many instances where you look at Spider-Man's J and it'll be blatantly backwards. There was actually one instance I found really funny where Spider-Man is fighting one of his enemies and he's supposed to be shouting a bit of dialogue, and the dialogue balloon is there, but nothing is written inside of it. So he's just going, sorry, Parker, I can't hear you. You're going to have to speak up. My dialogue balloon, I can't say anything. It's really funny, but it's not a bad series. It's got very. It reminds me of Power Rangers. It reminds me a lot of Power Rangers because the enemies are the insect army led by Lord Beastius, and it's like if you look at the designs, I wish I could find artwork of the enemies. You can kind of see in the top right of the English Spider-Man U.S. release. It's very. They've got like insects like mosquitoes and crocuses because, you know, he's a spider. It makes sense. So this ran for about 2 volumes, and it's silly. It's definitely not in the same universe. It's not as serious, but it's for a younger audience. It's meant for people ages like 9 to 14. You know, if you're into a lighthearted fun into the Spider-Man universe, I'd give it a read at least once. Okay, so you all knew this was coming. If we're talking about Marvel and comics, we're talking about the Marvel Manga-verse. So a little background information about the Marvel Manga-verse. This is actually not a manga series. This was completely American-made. Marvel decided that, oh, you know what? We have a lot of nerds in our community. And what do nerds like? Nerds like manga. Nerds like anime. Let's give them anime and manga because that's what we do. So this came out in 2000 to 2002. This actually predates Spider-Man J. And the premise of it is what would happen if all of Marvel's superheroes, what if Spider-Man, Captain America, Wolverine, the Fantastic Four, what if they took place in a manga instead of a comic book? What happens if they were set up in Japan? And to me, I'm not saying that this is bad, but I would say that this is more like not real manga. It's trying to pay homage to manga, but I think it's more like it throws in manga stereotypes, and it tries its best to be like, look, we're from Japan, we're cool, right? So let's talk about some of the differences that they have made. For starters, in this universe, Bruce Banner and the Incredible Hulk are two separate. Yeah, they are two separate entities in this universe. If you look in the top left, now Bruce Banner cannot turn into the Hulk, but he does have this uncanny proclivity to summon gods from his mind. I don't know how that works, but I want that power. Now Hulk in this universe, in the manga universe, yeah, he's got no, exactly, he's Godzilla, and you can't tell, but like in another picture, you can see he has a tail. He is Godzilla. His whole purpose in this universe is to stomp on buildings and to create, chaos. He's the kaiju stereotype. For those of you who don't know, kaiju is Japanese for giant monster. So that's like Godzilla, Gamera, King Kong, whatever. So that's a thing. Tony Stark also exists in this universe, and he was Iron Man, but he developed spinal cancer. And the most logical thing to do when you have spinal cancer, turn yourself into a detached head onto a robot body. So he is literally just a head in this universe, and it drives him a little bit nuts in the head, and he becomes a little bit of an antagonist. So who's going to take over the Iron Mantle, the Iron Throne, if you will? Enter in his sister, Tony Stark, with an eye. Tony Stark with an eye, who really looks more like Samus Aran from the Metroid series than Iron Man, but she actually takes up her own mantle, Iron Maiden, or as Wasp likes to call her, the Iron Bitch. She is cold, she is a lot more serious, and she's currently in charge of Stark Industries while Tony Stark can't get ahead in life. Now, the Avengers do exist in this universe, and what is up with these gender swaps, people? Come on. So in this universe, we have different superheroes. We have the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four, who's a girl for some reason, because we have Spider-Man, we have Black Cat, we have Spider-Girl, who I'll get into later. We have Iron Maiden, Wolverine, and Carol Danvers as Captain America. For those of you, does anyone here know who Carol Danvers is? Okay, could you tell me who Carol Danvers is in the main series Marvel Universe? She is the former Miss Marvel, yes. Mm-hmm. So in this universe, there is no Steve Rogers. She is Captain America. And, yeah, I think she can do it. I don't know. So this went from 2000 to 2002, I believe. And it was so popular that they decided to bring it back. But instead of one overall story, they brought it and separated it into several other universes and stories. They did this in 2005 to 2006. And the main manga universes that they, series that they brought up was The Punisher. Now, in this universe, The Punisher is also a girl because reasons. So, unlike the American Punisher, who is a male who likes to use military tactics and guns and explosions, this version of the Punisher likes to use martial arts and is well versed in the world of samurai blades. She's more of a ninja than a mercenary of sorts. The X-Men, there's really not much to say about the X-Men. It's pretty much the same, but the only thing I really like to bring up is that in this universe, Wolverine does not have his iron adamantium claws. He instead has laser claws. More accurately, they're energy beams, because anime, I don't know why. You know, for anything I can't explain, I'm just going to say because anime, because Japan. So he has, laser claws. Now, Spider-Man in this universe is actually a part of a ninja clan called the Spiders, the Spider Clan. And in this universe, he and Mary Jane Watson are a part of the same ninja clan. When their sensei Ben was killed by a shogun by the name of Venom, they decided to bring it upon themselves to bring on vigilante justice to bring that killer to peace. So in this universe, Spider-Man has a partner in the form of Mary Jane. And this would be really cool. We have a lot of strong, powerful women in this universe who are willing to fight for their freedom. But this universe was also famous for one other thing: fan service. Yes, that is because Japan. That is Black Cat kissing Mary Jane Watson, and Peter is yeah, because we need to bring in the sales. So yeah, they had a lot of fan service in this. It was a little silly, but I mean, for for a Western representation of an Eastern product, it's cute. I mean, it wouldn't be the first series I would pick up. But if you're curious, go ahead. It's available at Barnes and Noble. So yeah, give it a whirl. Now, why do I bring up the Mangaverse and all these other different Spider-Man specifically? Why do I specifically talk about Spider-Man? Because of a recent event that happened in the Eastern comic books that actually just ended a month or two ago called Spider-Verse. Now, I'm going to go through it really quickly. Essentially, in the main series Marvel Universe, Earth 616 and onward, there is a group of villains called the Inheritors. And in their quest, they want to extinguish every single Spider-Man, woman, and child that ever existed. Any universe of Spider-Man, from the 60s cartoon to the Toei TV show to even the Sam Raimi films, they get thrown into the mix. It is a manhunt. It is a Spider-Man holocaust. Now, Peter Parker of Earth 616, our main series Peter Parker that we know of, catches wind of this and knows, hey, wait, someone is whacking off all of the Spider-Men from across the multiverse. So what does he do? The most logical thing? He decides to go on a multiverse adventure to round up every single Spider-Man that ever existed. And they do their, the editors and writers of this series do their darndest to fit in every single Spider-Man from the Ultimate Universe. Yes, Ian? This was a very recent event. It started in fall of 2014, and it just ended in March of 2015. So this is a fresh series that just happened, and they're going to be releasing the series in trade paperback very soon. Like, I think I don't know if it's been released already, but it's coming out very soon. So it's almost like a big anniversary event for the Spider-Man multiverse. You get to see 66 Spider-Man team up with the modern Spider-Mans from the Ultimate Universe. Now, why do I bring up this event? Because since we're bringing up every single Spider-Man, that means we also get to see the return of all the manga Spider-Man. Yeah, every single Japanese Spider-Man mostly is in this series too. In fact, if you see in the left, you see Mangaverse Spider-Man front and center right next to 616 Spider-Man. And they also decided to throw in the Spider-Man from the live-action Toei TV show. The one with the giant transforming robot. Because why does Spider-Man need a giant transforming robot? Because Japan. And his name is, let's see, what was his name? Oh, yeah, Takuya. Now, they do throw in the Spider-Man from the other universes. You'll see Mangaverse Spider-Man. You'll see Spider-Man J. There's the live-action Toei Japanese Spider-Man. But there's one Spider-Man that actually doesn't make a physical appearance. But he's mentioned, and that is Yukamori from the manga, Spider-Man the manga, the original Spider-Man manga. Now, why they didn't include him, but they put in Spider-Man J, I don't know. But, I mean, at least maybe they couldn't get the rights to it, which makes no sense because Marvel owns Spider-Man. But they do try to mention him, in a fight in passing. So he's there. He's in the battle. You just don't see him. And the reason I bring this up is because this is actually one of the first time that we see direct manga characters interacting in a comic universe. This is a direct crossover between manga universes and comic universes. I think it's really cool. This is probably one of the best Spider-Man events that I've ever read. When it comes out, I cannot recommend this series enough. Spider-Man, Spider-Verse, see East meets West, see the 60s meet the 2010s. It's a really fantastic series. So we're done talking about DC and Marvel. We've got about 15 minutes, so I think we'll be able to make it. So let's talk about Dark Horse Comics. Now, who here actually knows Dark Horse? Okay, not many of you, because many people tend to only think, when they think of comic books, they think of DC and they think of Marvel, but they don't think of the other ones like IDW, Archie Comics, some of the others. Image Comics too. And the one thing that's really cool about Dark Horse Comics is that they are an equal publishing company. They publish just as much manga as they do comic books. Some of the comic books that they are known for include Hellboy, Conan, Usagi Yojimbo, which actually used to be Mirage Comics, which was the Ninja Turtles, but that's another can of worms, and The Mask, because believe it or not, The Mask was not a Jim Carrey movie originally, but started as a comic book. The Mask was essentially Deadpool before Deadpool was a thing, and I'm not even saying that as a joke. Like, really, I've read the original comics. It's prototype Deadpool. It's fantastic. I love it. Some of the mangas that they have translated in their time include Trigun, Astro Boy, Oh My Goddess, the manga adaptation of Fooly Cooly, and Akira. Now, now I know there are a few Oh My Goddess fans. Raise your hand if you like Oh My Goddess. Come on, I know you're in there. Oh My Goddess is the highest selling manga of Dark Horses, the most popular, highest selling. So good for you. If you're a Oh My Goddess fan, giving you silent applause. Yep. And it's just great, you know. But there's one particular series of that Dark Horse has their rights to that I think is really worth mentioning because of its ties to both the East and West, and that is a series called The Dirty Pair. Get your mind out of the gutter. Just get your mind out of the gutter right now. Okay, so a little bit of background information about The Dirty Pair. It started as a Japanese light novel. For those of you who don't know, a light novel is a short novel, not like a more than a novella, but less than a full novel that generally has illustrations in it. And the series went from 1980 to 2007, the book series. Now, I know what you're thinking. Wait a minute, that's not a manga series. Chris, you're trying to cheat us. To that, I say, Haruhi Suzumiya, the arguably the most popular manga and anime character of all time, started as a light novel. So you know what? I'm counting it. I'm going to count it. So it also had an anime series, which went from 1985 to 1990. A little bit of background information about The Dirty Pair. The series takes place in a universe hundreds of years where humans have gone far beyond the Earth and have gone to the stars, gone to different planets. There's a lot of danger, though, and they have a task force to help deal with that danger. There is the Trouble Consultant Team 234. And of this consultant team, there is a group called the Lovely Angels, who are Kei and Yuri. Now, the thing about the Lovely Angels is that they have a nickname that they despise, the Dirty Pair. And it's not because someone wrote tons and tons of not work-safe fan fiction about them. It's because they are klutzes. They will cause wanton destruction anytime that they have a task done. So, like, say they're bringing in, like, an assassin or trying to take down a hostage situation, they'll get their bad guy, but end up destroying half of the city block in the process. So that's why they're known as the Dirty Pair, and I hate being called that. So this is a Japanese series. It's got a manga. It's got a light series. So you would think that naturally it would get its own anime series. Its own manga series, right? Well, no. Before it made the jump to manga, it went directly to comic books. So Dark Horse picked up the rights to the Dirty Pair title, and from 1988 to 2000, over 28 consecutive issues, it was it didn't come out very often, maybe like once every 4 months or so or whatever. It was like a biannual kind of thing. But it was still interesting to see these characters who have Eastern Japanese roots jump immediately into the Western market in this way. It's very similar. A lot of the stories are taken directly from the original light novels, and it's an interesting story. The one thing I will say though is that the artist tries its best to replicate that manga look. It doesn't look exactly like manga. They got the big eyes. They've got the healthy chests. Let's say yes, Justin.
From the art style, actually, from the one on the right, it kind of reminds me a lot of the comic called Empowered.
Yes,
Is it the same artist?
yes, it's the exact same artist from Empowered. And if anyone saw the one-shot Teen Titans issue from 1999, no, okay, whatever. It's I know it's a very specific reference, but it's this artist. He's the weird thing is that this is just naturally how he draws. You know, he is trying to make it look more like an anime kind of thing because it comes from a Japanese background, but you know, this is just how he draws, and it's just interesting. If anyone saw Totally Spies growing up with more explosions, or like Charlie's Angels, it's kind of like that, but in space with more explosions. Yeah, Justin, you have another question? That I don't know. I have no idea. I have no idea. Yes.
The illustrator for the light novel also did the character designs for the original Gundam series.
Ooh, good Easter egg. Now, it actually wasn't until years later that they got a manga series of their own, and it was in 2010. And one thing that was really interesting is that it was actually written by the same guy who wrote the original light novels. There's really not much to talk about this series. It's a little bit more promiscuous than the comic book. There's a lot more fan service, a little bit more revealing clothing. Really nothing to say about this. It's just they went from east to west to back to east. It ran for about 2 volumes, so it was a very short-lived series. I can't find this anywhere. If you want to pick it up, if you want to look at it, I don't know where it is. I don't know if it was ever officially released in English in the United States, but I know that the comics have been released in trade paperback. So if you're interested about an anime and light novel series from the past that has had ties to both the East and West, I highly recommend picking this one up. Also, a cool thing about Dark Horse Comics is that before Marvel bought the rights to LucasArts Studios, they also were the ones that were in charge of the Star Wars adaptations. And they were also the ones in charge of the Godzilla comics before IDW got the rights for that. So yeah, Dark Horse Comics is very, very respectful of its Japanese roots. And I definitely recommend picking up things, not just from DC, Marvel, but also from Dark Horse. So now that we know a little bit about the past of comics and manga living side by side together, what is the future? Well, how are we going to see comics and manga working together, two medias that are so similar but have such distinct differences? Well, DC still won't get off of Batman. It's still focusing only on Batman, and for some reason, they are putting a big push on Lord Deathman, of all people. For some reason, he's gotten such a large cult following that he has actually made his way into the mainstream DC universe. He is an official character, a comic character that is now in the Eastern comics. He is based in Japan as a villain that also fakes his death. He's still lame. No one likes him. Sorry, Skeletor. No one likes you. And the Jiro Kawata Bat manga recently has been released for the very first time in 40 years in the United States. Full translation. It's from right to left, so none of the artwork is altered or flipped, and the dialogue is 1-to-1. The first volume was released in December, and it will have volumes 2 and 3 being released later this year. I believe volume 2 is being released in July. So if you want to see more Lord Deathman, more of the human Tigger Ball, you know, it's great. And the series has actually gotten so much of a cult following that a episode of Batman the Brave and the Bold. Who watched Batman the Brave and the Bold on Cartoon Network? I love Batman the Brave and the Bold. It's so campy, but I love it. It's a good campy. So to honor this underground series, they actually adapted a full story arc, the Lord Deathman story arc, into a single episode. And if we had enough time, I would put it on and I would watch it, but we don't have that time. But if you want to go on YouTube legally, I mean, if you want to look at it without purchasing, I'm not going to stop you. But it's episode 25 of season 2 if you want to see a Bat manga story. And it's not like a parody. It's literally an adaptation with the art style and all. And believe it or not, there is a sister series to the Batman series called Batman 66. This is a comic book series that takes place in the Adam West TV show universe. And they have Batman going against characters that normally weren't in the TV show. So we see like Harley Quinn make an appearance, kind of, sort of. And one issue had Lord Deathman, where Batman and Batgirl went to Japan to go take him down. One thing I find really interesting about this is that Lord Deathman originally premiered in a Batman series that was inspired by the Adam West show, and now he's appearing in a comic book also inspired by the Comic West show. So it's like everything has kind of come full circle. And that's really the only involvement that DC has in terms of the future of manga and comics. Marvel, on the other hand, between Marvel versus Capcom, is much stronger to its Japanese roots. I know some of you know that this is coming. Attack on Avengers! The crossover between Attack on Titan and the Marvel Universe. Who here does not know what Attack on Titan is? Raise your hand. I know there's at least one of you. Mom. For those of you who've been living under a rock and have no idea what Attack on Titan is, it is a universe where giant creatures known as Titans come up and they basically wipe mankind to the brink of extinction, and they seal themselves inside a giant wall. There's peace for 100 years until the giant Titans come in and break through the wall, and in a last-ditch effort, the humans decide to rise up and give one last fight. We got an Attack on Titan cosplayer right here. Woo! So this is a separate what if story. This is what if the Titans from Attack on Titan invaded the Marvel universe? How would people with superpowers take on these colossal titans? It's a one-shot alternate universe story, and it features characters like Spider-Man, the Avengers, even the Guardians of the Galaxy come in. Now, this was written by American writers, but it was released in Japan first. Now, does that mean we're not going to be able to see it? We're absolutely going to be able to read it. It's going to be released for free on National Free Comic Book Day, May 2nd, 2015. For those of you who do not know what Free Comic Book Day is, it is a series. Oh, hi. It is a holiday. It's a holiday to me, where comic book stores across the country give out free promotional works. Usually you get to see a sneak peek of what story arcs are coming up in the future. You get to meet famous artists. You can go and get a bunch of promotional stuff. Free Comic Day is fantastic. And Marvel, the Attack on Titan Avengers crossover this upcoming May 2nd. So in like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, or I can't calendar. So, yeah, this is the first time that characters from an original manga series have come into a comic book series and interacted, and this is fantastic. I cannot wait for this crossover to come. And this is the future. So now that we know about the past, the present, and future, I hope you guys have been paying attention because it's quiz time! So, by now, I'm sure some of you guys have noticed that there are numbers in Comic Sans on your seat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull 2 names out of a hat. If you do not have the number with you, just grab the one right next to you. I'm going to pick 2 numbers, and you are going to come up and compete for prizes. So let's see. And if you are a family member, you do not qualify. I'm sorry. We have the books at home. Ba-ba-ba-da, ba-ba-ba-da. So the first contestant is number 1. Who has number 1? Anyone? Number 1? Number 1. No? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Next one. Ba-ba-ba-da, ba-ba-ba-da. 47. Who has 47? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller, 47? Okay, we're going to be here a while. Hold on. 47 left? Well, nuts. 43. Who has 43? 43. Come on. 43. Do we have 43? 43. All right. All right, next, you are contestant number 1. Hello. I would say tell your name and what you're cosplaying as, but what is your name? Where do you come from? Eliza. Oh, Ariza. Okay, I can't English either. Number 16. Who has 16? Okay, 16. Okay, no 16. Okay, 20. Who has 20? Okay, no. Wait, do we have a 20? Rukia? Or Rukia? Nope. Okay, Ryuko, whatever. 48. Who has 48? Okay, God, I knew it was a bad idea to do 52 of these. 19. Who has 19? I'll count it. Come on up, Sam. I will count it. All right, so everyone, so the both of you are going to come to the front. Tell us both your names. Don't worry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you are now in front of everybody. No pressure. All right, so here's how this is going to work. I hope you guys have been paying attention because it's quiz time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a variety of different questions based on this presentation. The first person to get 3 out of 5 will win the prize that we are going for today. And what are we winning today? We are winning the Bat Manga Volume 1. This is the first prize that we are going for. Yes, released in full English for the first time, Volume 1 of 3. First person to get 3 out of 5 wins. To answer first, you must put your hand on the table, but you must wait until I answer or ask the question and give all of the multiple choice. If the person who answers first gets it wrong, the person that goes next has a chance to steal the point. If neither one gets it right, we will settle it with rock, paper, scissors, because I only have 10 questions. So are you guys ready? Let's quiz time. Question number 1. Manga and comics differ in many different ways, except for the following. A, the use of sequential artwork. B, the direction the story is read. C, the use of color versus the use of detail. And D, the format the story is published in. I believe your hand was down first, Eriza. I am sorry. That is not correct. Manga and comics differ in many ways, except for the following. So this is something that they have in common. Remember, this is something I said at the beginning. So Sam, you now have the chance to steal the point.
I'm going to go with B.
I am sorry. That is not correct either. The correct answer is A, the use of sequential artwork. Sequential artwork is multiple pictures being put side by side. This is something I mentioned. So because you guys, actually, you know what? It's fine. We'll move on to the next one. We have multiple questions. Katie, thank you for joining us. I miss you. All right, that's fine. So no points so far. You know what we'll do? If you guys don't get enough points by question 5, then we'll do the rock, paper, scissors. Question number 2. So I have mentioned this title numerous times, and it's on the cover. So what is the name of the author/artist of the 1966 Bat Manga? Okay, Sam, I saw your hand down first.
Jiro Kawada.
It is Jiro Kuwata. So that means, Sam, you have 1 point. You need to win 2 more to get the Jiro Kuwata Bat Manga. Question number 3. Name one change that was not made to the English adaptation of Batman, Child of Dreams. Mirrored artwork, replaced sound effects, so Japanese to English sound effects, character names being changed, or added dialogue to the script. Okay, I saw your hand first, Ariza. That is correct. Character name changes. Dialogue was flipped. Artwork was flipped, and sound effects were changed, but character names were all the same. So both of you 1 and 1. We have a tied game so far. It's still anyone's game. Question number 4. What year did DC Comics manga brand CMX shut down for good? Remember, it was 6 years that they were operational. Was it A, 2004, B, 2008, C, 2010, or D, 2012? Okay, Ariza, I saw your hand down first. I'm sorry, that is incorrect.
2010.
Very good. It was 2010 that it was shut down. Don't worry. No, it started in 2004. 2004, it started, and it closed after 6 years, 2010. So 2-1. So, Sam, you need to win 1 more to get the Bat Manga. Question number 5. What year was Marvel Spider-Man the Bat Manga? What year was Marvel Spider-Man the manga first released in Japan? Remember, I did mention this. Is it 1962, 1967, 1970, or 1977? Sam. 1970. We have a winner. All right. So, Sam, you win the Jiro Kuwata Bat Manga. Eriza, thank you so much for playing. So now we're going to get 2 more contestants coming up, and we're going to go for 1 more prize, okay? So let's see. 2 more, and then we'll end this because we're going over, actually. 27. Who has 27? 27? No? Okay. 28. Who has 28? All right, Richard, come on down.
Come on down.
Ba-ba-ba-da. 1 more. 25. No, 52. Who has 52?
52?
Yeah, as in new 52. No? Okay. Don't worry, this is the last bit of questions. 13. Who has 13? Nope. 13? No. Jesus, I thought 17. I'm pulling it out of my Geno hat. 51. No? Okay. 30. No? How about 30? We have a 30? 15? Yeah. Okay, you know what? 15. Does someone have 15? All right, come on down. Yes, finally. Woo! I thought more people were coming. All right, so both of you guys tell everyone your names and what you are cosplaying as mostly. He is a muggle, and you are, my good sir? Zemnis? All right. And what is your name? Green? Yes. All right, I will just call you Green. All right. So, next variety of questions. Question number 6. Which of the following characters did not receive a gender swap in the Marvel Mangaverse? Now, careful, this is tricky. Is it the Punisher, the Human Torch? Wait until I'm finished. The Punisher, the Human Torch, Captain America, or Iron Man? Okay, Zemnis.
D.
Very good. D. Do not mistake it with Tony Stark with an I. So we have 1-1. Question number 7. Which of the following is the only Japanese Spider-Man not to make a physical appearance? Make sure that you are not touching the table. Which of the following is the only Japanese Spider-Man not to make a physical appearance in the recent Marvel crossover event Spider-Verse? Is it Yukamori, the Japanese Spider-Man from Spider-Man the manga, Takayu Yabashiro from the Toei TV show, Sho Amano from Spider-Man J, or Peter Parker from the Marvel Mangaverse? Okay, Zemnis. It is Yukamori from Spider-Man the manga. All right, Richard, you better step up your game. I'm sending all my spiritual energy so that way you can win this. Richard. Possibly the last question. Which of the following is Dark Horse's highest-selling manga series of all time? Is it Oh My Goddess, Trigun, Akira, or Astro Boy? Okay, Richard, I actually saw your hand go down first. It is Oh My Goddess. Good job. All right, so we got 2-1. 2-1. Question number 9. Kay and Yuri hate being called the Dirty Pair and have a more official code name for their duo. What is that code name? Is it Angelic Pair, Lovely Angels, Earth's Angels, or Lovely Pair? All right, Richard, I actually saw your hand go down first. Man, you're coming back. No, it is not A, Angelic Pair. Zemnis, you can win this all. It is B, Lovely Angels. We have a winner. Now, unfortunately, I do not have something as cool as the Bat manga. You win Spider-Man J. Volume 1 of Spider-Man J. All right, you know what? We have one question left. Does anyone want to answer this? What date is this year's National Free Comic Book Day? Come on, I know at least one person. What is it? It is May 2nd, 2015, so go get your copy of Attack on Avengers. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming to TowerCon. Thank you for coming to Manga for comic fans. I hope that this helps you widen your array of comics and manga. Thank you. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your stay at TowerCon. Woo!